welcome back our good friend Jim McGreevey, former governor of the great state of New Jersey and chairman of New Jersey Reentry Corporation. Good to see you, Jim.
It's good to be here. Thank you, Stephen.
Jim, a report you and your team just put out, New Jersey Opioid Addiction Report, a modern plague. Describe what is it and why does it matter so much?
Stephen, the advent of synthetic opioids, fentanyl and carfentanil, has been a profound game changer. Fentanyl is 50 times, carfentanil is 100 times stronger than morphine. It's a synthetic opioid.
Sorry, Jim, fentanyl I know. What's the other one?
Carfentanil, which is even a stronger version of fentanyl. It's what they use in Africa to take down a full-grown African bull elephant in 20 minutes. And this synthetic opioid is so powerful, the DEA no longer uses the dogs. Agents now wear bodysuits because the fact that 3 grains of sand, the equivalent of that fentanyl, a client can survive, but 4 grains, you suffer overdose and death. And now the naltrexone, which we use to bring back people temporarily, you need 4 administrations. So this is so powerful. I mean, I just did, last week, we just did toxicology reports at our 9 reentry sites. And there's no more heroin in the heroin anymore, in the sense that people are consuming the synthetic opioid mixed with whatever derivative. And so that this is so powerful, so corrosive, that it's destroying lives faster and more permanently than anything we've ever seen.
Jim, but your organization, dealing with reentry, those who have been incarcerated,
Sure,
coming back into society, what is the connection between the opioid crisis and the incarcerated population?
So there are 2 points. One, that people coming out of prison or out of jail are 130 times more likely to die because they're coming out and all of a sudden they're going to go back to the same usage, the same amount, and they take it, they overdose, and they die. The second point, in the state of New Jersey, we have one of the highest conflations. If you're in prison in the state of New Jersey, there's an 80% chance you're an addict or alcoholic. And if you're an addict or alcoholic, there's a high probability that you're going to wind your way into the criminal justice system or death. There's a high conflation between addiction and imprisonment in the state of New Jersey. And what we saw in this report, Stephen, is that thanks to the leadership of Senator Vitale and Governor Christie, Senator Joe Vitale,
Chairman of the Senate Health Committee, go ahead.
Yeah, and Governor Christie on a bipartisan basis said, all right, we need to provide for treatment.
Why would you be talking about the previous governor in this?
Because I think the governor did a phenomenal job in sort of grappling with the addiction crisis and at least bringing everybody to the table. But what we did is we required, in the state of New Jersey, 28 days of residential treatment and up to 3 months of intensive outpatient. But fentanyl is so powerful. Dr. Gasparin of Harvard said it takes 14 months. After one administration, it takes 14 months for your brain to go back to where it was before that administration, that there's such significant neural damage to the mind. And so that 28 days is not going to solve it. So we've been working with Blue Cross Blue Shield and Suzanne Kuznis, Horizon, and who's been like...
Suzanne is a policy person?
Yeah, I think she's like one of the 10 smartest people in the state of New Jersey. But, you know, to realize what was happening is young men and women were going into treatment for 28 days, coming out, using again, relapsing, going into treatment 28 days, coming out, using again. And it was happening 6, 7, 8 times. And then, Stephen, they die.
What works, Jim?
Well, we looked at the best practices in Rhode Island and Massachusetts and Texas, and what they say, it has to be a year model. It doesn't mean that the person's going away for a year. They can be in an Oxford house. They can be in a residential program, but they have to see the same doctor. They have to see the same psychiatrist. And so, you know, what's happening in New Jersey is Jim can go into Integrity House, and then I come out and I can go to Ava's Village, and then I can come out and I can go to another facility. But my records aren't following me. You know, take for example, if you were a cancer patient and you had surgery, they would follow you. The records would follow.
Right. Why would it be different with someone who's suffering from opioid addiction, heroin addiction?
I think, Stephen, candidly, it goes back to the fact that before President Bush and Senator Kennedy provided for parity between behavioral health and medical health, candidly, our behavioral health system was fragmented, and we're suffering.
We didn't care that much, Jim, did we?
No, we didn't. And I can make an argument.
We
didn't care when black and brown people were suffering in the middle of a cocaine epidemic,
where are we now?
What?
Where are we now? I mean, you talked about Governor Christie. You served as governor. You talked about Senator Vitale. Where do you see the Governor Murphy administration on this issue in terms of addressing the issues you're raising right now in this report?
Well, you know, Carol Johnson,
one of the commissioners
of Human Services, Dr. Sharif of Department of Health. Commissioner of Health. I believe they want to get this done, and with the leadership of Joe Vitale, I believe we're going to move from a 28-day model to a year model so that...
What would it take to do that? Is it legislation?
It's legislation. It's legislation.
Has the governor made a statement on this?
The governor's responded to the report. The attorney general's responded to the report positively.
Did they acknowledge that they're committed to a year-long process?
I think.
And the economics involved in that?
Well, it's not actually Blue Cross Blue Shield.
It's not economics?
No. At Blue Cross Blue Shield, Horizon will actually argue it's less expensive because what's happening.
How can it be less expensive if you're in for longer and treatment costs more?
Because what happens is, Stephen, is that if you're in there for a short time up front, and you have all the clinical, the medical, the psychiatric, and then you have a step-down model, and then you have a further step down, you're back into the community, and you're working it, and you're productive. The point is like a family. We're following you from the beginning to the end.
It's not the back and forth?
No, it's
the back and forth is more
it's not the in and out, in and out. And so what happens is you're going to have medication-assisted treatment, and this is a big part of it. Like I'm an old AA, NA guy, but this is so powerful, the fentanyl, that you need Suboxone, you need naltrexone in order to wean the person off.
We need a different approach.
You need a different approach, but you have to lock down that person. You have to be all over that person from beginning to end for that year, and that's with the doctor, the behavioral psychologist, and the psychiatrist.
Before I let you go, increasing access to the drugs you're talking about, to the treatment you're talking about, biggest obstacle in the way of that? I've asked you this before.
It hasn't happened. It's frustrating because, part of it is medicating. Carol Johnson, I think she's making great strides. I've said, for my guys coming out of prison, they're dying. I have in my phone 3 photographs of men that have died this past week. I mean, this isn't cutting the Parkway law.
In connection with the opioid crisis?
Yeah, in connection with the opioid crisis. They come out of prison and they're using again, and then they overdose. And so my point is, when people like Suzanne Kuzna says, we can do this better, we can do this less expensively, but we have to connect these systems. In Vermont, it's called a hub and spoke. You come and get your MAT, we'll connect you to medication-assisted treatment. You'll get your Suboxone, you'll get your naltrexone, and then we'll connect you to housing, we'll connect you to benefits, will connect you to job placement.
So Vermont's doing it well.
Vermont's doing well.
It's
Massachusetts,
not like it can't be done.
Texas,
Other
it can
state,
be done.
Texas.
Yeah.
It can be done.
And we're going to have 3,000 people. I went to a funeral about 8 months ago with a family that lost their second child.
To this?
To this. And this is, Stephen, this was the most buttoned up, old-fashioned Catholic family, did everything right. It's their kids with their knucklehead friends. I mean, the same way you and I at some point would have done Jägermeister or whatever stupid thing.
Something stupid.
This stuff you don't come back from.
Jim McGreevey.
So we need to get this done. Thank you, Stephen.
No. Every time you join us, not just we learn something new, we're challenged. And I hope the folks in the State House, where you know better than most, respond. Not just Senator Vitale, but others.
Yeah.
Thank you, Jim.
Thank you, my friend.
You got it.
Godspeed.
Take care of yourself. Same to
Thank
you.
you.
Be right back, right after this.
The preceding program has been a production of the Caucus Educational Corporation, celebrating over 25 years of broadcast excellence. Funding for this edition of Caucus New Jersey has been provided by Horizon Blue Cross Blue Shield of New Jersey, Englewood Health, the Russell Berry Foundation, the Healthcare Foundation of New Jersey, Summit Medical Group, Valley Bank, and by Adler Aphasia Center. Transportation provided by Airbrook Limousine, serving the metropolitan New York, New Jersey area. Caucus New Jersey has been produced in partnership with TriStar Studios.